think the introduction's already been done, but just to kind of tell you my name again, my name is Taru Dahiya. I'm representing Google for Work in this panel today. Really excited about this topic because it's something that I really enjoy, I'm passionate about. I have my own, kind of firm. The entire marketing, branding of that is something that I really enjoy doing. So really excited to talk about how can you build a brand that everybody loves and what could be the potential challenges in today's digital world.
Hi, I'm Richa. I'm the founder of Zivami.com. We're working very hard to create a very joyful experience for all Indian women when they experience lingerie through us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rajiv Nair. I head Celio in India. Celio, incidentally, is the largest menswear brand in France. And it's present across continental Europe and in some parts of Asia, with India being the largest contributor. I think the subject's extremely interesting, and we were actually having a very interesting analogy about building brand and sustaining brands, and that was around how it is like a relationship that you have to sustain over a period of time. So creating a brand and sustaining a brand is not a one-time activity. It needs a lot of investment, a lot of rethink on a regular basis. And I think that's probably going to be the theme of what we're going to discuss in the debate.
Good morning. My name is Rajesh Jain. I head Lacoste India. As far as this topic is concerned, it's extremely interesting actually. In fact, I would say that when we talk about brand being loved or not being loved, we have to first establish that whether it's a real love or it's a short-term infatuation which could be due to, let's say, a discount being offered by somebody and people flock to that shop and start buying it, or it could be due to the novelty factor. So this is very, very important and critical that we establish further this is a real love and not short-term infatuation. So the rest we talk about during the panel.
Good morning all. My name is Mahesh Murthy. I wear two hats. I invest in brands and help them grow on the one hand, and on the other, I also help, I own a digital brand management firm that works with large brands and helps them kind of transform for this digital era. Some of the brands that we own and help direct and manage are maybe brands you've heard of, like Redbus, Chumbak, My Dentist, Carvale, Dulali, and so on and so forth. And what's really interesting about all of these brands is that they've all taken extraordinary dominant positions in their niches by spending exactly 0 rupees on advertising. Some of the other brands that we work with are people like Airtel, ICICI, Tata Steel, Cadbury's and such, and I'm happy to talk about, let me put it this way, I've come from about the first 20 years of my life I spent believing in the classical model of brand marketing, which is you spend a lot of money on advertising and marketing, and you get push your brand into distribution. And the last 10 years of my life have been spent in doing exactly the opposite. You spend nothing on advertising, nothing on marketing, virtually nothing on distribution, yet you build massive, super dominant brands which are profitable without spending a lot of money. So I've got 4 or 5 rules for doing that, and I hope I have 3 minutes sometime during this talk to share them. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nissan Joseph. I run Crocs, the shoe brand in India. We try to keep it real simple. Our tagline is find your fun, and it's easy to find your fun every day in everything you do. We don't overcomplicate what we're about. We keep it simple, and I think we are able to create brand energy, amazing brand energy, just by finding your fun every day.
Hi, I'm Pushkaraj, and I run Lakme Lever. It's a fully owned subsidiary of Hindustan Unilever. Why I'm passionate about this subject is, this is our day job. We want to build Lakme as a brand that each one of our associates, each one of the 3,000 associates who works for Lakme really lives, breathes, and is passionate about. And as we were having this discussion early on, I think a brand that you love, the test that it really needs to stand is, are you willing to tattoo the brand name or the logo on your forearm, right? And that's the difference between, let's say, an Apple or an IBM, and maybe a Harley Davidson and a BMW. Are you really willing to tattoo that? Are you willing to, and that's really that's the origin of the word brand as well, right? They used to brand animals with the names of the owner, and that really, became colloquial. So are we really in love with the brand that we work for, or are we really in love with the brand that we use that we are willing to go that distance. And I'm not so sure many brands go past that test.
Great. So just to build on that last point then, right? So a lot of these brands, have different ways of reaching the market. Some of you reach the market in a purely digital sense or with some analog presence, whether it's through traditional retail or a set of salons, right? And you rely on the individuals that are out there in the field to bring that brand to life. And I wonder, Push, just if you can elaborate a little bit about how you address that challenge. Say, how does Lakme translate to the market through human beings, which we all know are a fairly difficult species. They're unruly, they can be magical at times, but it's a very tricky balance.
So we've not come across those kind of human beings at Lakme. We've got beautiful people who work for Lakme. So I think the challenge that we have and the opportunity that we have at Lakme, and I'm speaking specifically about the salons business, is how do you make brand the organization thought, how do you make brand the culture? And if your brand stands for a set of values, and we've articulated 5 values, how does that become the governing principle for each one of the people who are part of Lakme, rather than sit in a brand manual and you've got frames outside which say these are our values. So I think out of the various P's of brand building, the ones that really work for us and we underline are purpose and passion, and connecting Lakme to people's individual purpose and the organization's purpose and passion. And the last part is completely about personalization. So what's in it for me? And you need to answer that for each and every person who is part of the organization. We are in the service business, so if our associate or our expert isn't feeling that good, right, then that aura translates into what the customer experience will be. And therefore, it's really important for us. I think the biggest brand investment for us is the 8 or 10 days of training that every member who joins Lakme goes through, and the 5 hours of training. So we did about 5 lakh hours of training last year, and that is really important. One of the important programs that we've launched a couple of years back is called Backstage Heroes, and that really is part of our career progression for our experts, but more importantly, it imbibes the values that we want all our experts to stand for. So that kind of brings all our 5 values: passion for beauty, strive for perfection, work is fun, customers first. It puts all of that together, and it translates that into a program for experts. So it's clearly about how do we build brand as the culture, how do we bring that alive for every expert, and then through that to customers. And that's really what keeps all of us awake and energized at Lakme Salons.
Great, thank you. Richa, I'd be interested in your views. Your business is built largely in a digital experience. So as a contrast to the very, very close face-to-face interaction at a salon, how are you thinking about giving your customers the experience you need largely in a digital medium, and how have you seen that evolve since you've launched?
It's a classic challenge for all online businesses, pure play online businesses. Offline retail is a very high touch business, high on engagement, high on face value, and therefore lends itself high on credibility and trust. So how do you build a business which is specifically for women, women's intimate wear, where trust and credibility is a very, very important factor? What we realized is there are 2 things which are most important for our business. One is the product, the merchandise. The second is the experience. And we believe that for us to be an authority in this category, we have to constantly communicate with the consumer. And we invested a lot of energy and efforts in visually merchandising our site just the way it would be in a retail destination. All our products have stories to tell, to say why we made them, what it will do for you, why will you love it. And in case our consumers were to speak to a helpline or a chat, there are women on the other side, very well trained, who will address their queries very, very effectively. So what it did is it allowed women to feel that this is a space which is personal and comforting, and yet in a way it is talking to me. So that is the way in which we conceptualize the entire experience.
Great, thank you. That level of experience, right, that you can foster digitally, you know, a decision you're making, it's a very individual decision, right? There are emotional factors, there are logical factors, and I'm curious, we have a handful of other fashion brands on the panel today. When you're trying to address that combination of emotional and logical choices, you know, how do you cut to the point of it? Do we have a brand that they love? And, you know, I'd be interested to sort of hear from our, we have both a couple of French brands with a domestic presence. We have another global brand with a domestic presence. So gentlemen, I don't know if you could elaborate on that a little bit further.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. I think it's important to realize that not everybody is going to love you all the time, right? In fact, we have quite a lot of people make fun of Crocs and swear they're the ugliest shoes they've ever seen. But we love them. We love people that talk about our brand. We think if your brand is being talked about, if your brand is being communicated about, that creates its own brand presence. Keeping it fun is also just as important. So it's almost fun to watch people that call Crocs by funny names, and then fun to watch the people that defend it and say, hey, I love my Crocs. And so getting your customer to tell another one that doesn't believe in your brand is a very powerful way to build a brand. So it's not all about everybody has to love your brand. We're very comfortable when people make fun of us to say, we know that people that do love us are going to come out, be very vocal, be very powerful, and defend us. It's better than us defending ourselves. And there's chatter, there's dialogue. You're creating a dialogue and a context. And that's what's important for us to build our brand. It's not about having just all one way.
So it's a very decisive choice, right? So, you know, the question of, you know, are you going to etch it into your arm? But you want to say, these people are with us and it's okay that the others are not.
That's right.
So, great.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so we firmly believe that you can't impose love on somebody. It has to come naturally. So in our stores, we are very clear that we don't sell. We only assist the customer buy. So we only assist when the customer walks in. It's not that your customer service executive will run after him and start pushing the sale that you please buy this, buy this. It's only maybe because the category we are into accessible luxury where you have the type of customers who don't like to be pushed around. So from that perspective, we only assist them by. Secondly, I would like to say when you want to make your brand loved, it's not that there is any particular success mantra that you do this and the people will start loving your brand. It's not that you do this or this or this. So we love to believe that in brand environment, you have to do this and this and this and this and this and so on. You have to continue to do a lot of things. But if I really work that out, that it perhaps boils down to 3 or 4 main factors. The top amongst them is product and its quality. The second is innovation, the freshness that you bring to the customer's mind. And the most important part, I would say, is the customer service, especially in offline store format that we follow. The customer service is the most important factor where the customer actually comes to you, he feels that he is pampered, or there is somebody who has walked an extra mile to service him. And that really makes a difference is what we feel.
Great.
I would completely, sorry.
No, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I would completely agree with that. I think these are definitely the founding principles, but if you take a basic step, right, or basic approach to how you set your brand out there for people to love. I have this, and I was discussing this with somebody, and we can debate on that precise word. You know, the analogy that I look at it is primarily around, you know, what you look for in a perfect life partner, right? What are the things that go into you finding a perfect life partner, and you plan that, you can apply that to building a brand that everybody loves. Now, the perfect is the word that you can debate whether it's perfect or right, but let's get to the point with respect to what are those factors kind of that go into building a brand that everybody loves, right? To begin with, the first part I believe is about you determine your type. You know, who are you compatible with? And when you kind of put that on the consumer end, it's all about that comprehensive profiling that you need to do. who's that audience that you're targeting? What's the demographics? Where's it located? What's the kind of product that he likes? That's determining the type. Once you've determined the type, you go out in the market and tell everyone that you're looking. In the earlier age, it used to be your parents and relatives. Today, it's kind of, matrimonial sites that kind of really help you get there. And when you bring it to the consumer and the brand perspective, it's all about finding those influencers and champions that can actually bring you out in front of your audience, right? Be it, the social platforms, be it, individual influencers, industry leaders that can bring you out in front of the, of the audience. Then you look the part, what really will attract this audience towards you. And then you listen to them. You take their feedback and tell them that, yes, we are there out for you. And then finally, before you put the ring on the finger or before you kind of make a final decision, you really get the commitment from the customer. And finally, as somebody from the panel mentioned, is about kind of keeping the spark alive or just creating that magical kind of wedding kind of a story that you can stitch in, right? So how do you keep that spark alive? Once you've identified the audience, once you've connected with that audience, how do you keep that alive? It's the same messaging, it becomes redundant. The linear branding or the linear message kind of becomes redundant at the end of maybe a couple of years or a couple of cycles. So you need to kind of keep figuring stuff or keep shaping things again and again over a period of time.
Rajiv.
Actually, the words, the love, the passion for the brand in a retail sense actually comes from the store. As to how passionate are we about our store, how passionate are we about our product, how passionate are we about our people. And that actually is a true measure of how a good retail brand really works. And I'll give you a very simple, and I was pretty happy to hear from Mahesh that actually his stated goal is not to really put money behind just pure advertising, but really focus on the product and the service of the brand. And I can take you back to the launch of Celio way back in 1985, when two brothers in France opened their first store, and today they run 1,000 stores in 65 countries. That gives me a proof that actually the focus of these people was not really on brand marketing and advertising, but to create a great experience or great story through stores, great assortment, great product, and consistently reinventing themselves in the store on a every 3-year, 5-year basis. And I think that's the learning that probably we take from that part of the world into this part of the world. And one of the conscious decisions that we took at the start of the journey in India was not really to start building a brand property and then franchising it massively and creating hundreds of stores. We today run only about 40 stores in the country. But I think our entire effort is towards creating that magic or creating that experience through assortment in stores, beautifully visually merchandised stores, and also a high focus on staff and servicing inside the stores. I think it's a slow process. It's not as fast as building a billion-dollar brand, but I think it's a sustainable process that we are really investing on. So even if it's a shop-in-shop, even if it's a franchise store tomorrow, I think our focus is going to be towards all of these elements. So I think we spent disproportionate amount of time on thinking of assortment, thinking of changes in customers, and constantly reinventing ourselves. And that, I think, is our story of how we like it.
On that last point, I'm going to ask Mahesh to chime in, right? So the retail landscape in India, of course, has been changing radically, month on month, not even year on year. If you take a recent window, you have a very young, large base of consumers, and their expectations are radically different from certainly their parents, perhaps even their eldest siblings. And you have a number of different businesses that touch different parts of the market. Mahesh, I wonder if you could weigh in on that.
Sure. I just wanted to start with some observations out here, about then and now, and these both maybe refer to my own analog and my own digital stages of my marketing life. I was brought up in the traditional Kotlerian tradition, believing that, competition is going to rise, and you've got to outmarket to be able to gain market share. And obviously, if you followed that theory through, that competition would rise, you kind of end up believing that, you'd have a bunch of categories where the top 2-3 players are very closely bunched to each other. And sure, that's true in automotives where Toyota and Volkswagen and GM are within, 80 basis points, 0.8% of each other. And in pharmaceuticals where the leader is 10% and the number 2 guy is 9.2% and the number 3 guy is 8% and so on and so forth. Something has changed drastically, or even Coke and Pepsi, which are neck and neck. Something has changed drastically, right? If I look at the brands, both offline and online, that have really come up in the last 5-7 years, instead of cars, I take a niche like electric cars or luxury electric cars instead of gasoline-powered cars. The world's biggest brand is Tesla with a 98% market share. BMW I has a 1% market share. Instead of Coke and Pepsi, if I take the more modern equivalent that has grown up in these times, if I take energy drinks, Red Bull has a 47% market share. And Coke and Pepsi's energy drinks together have 11%. So Red Bull is 4 times larger than Coke and Pepsi's energy drinks combined. If I take women's fashion, far and away the world's largest brand is Zara. You know, with $21 billion in sales, and it's 10 times larger than Calvin Klein with $2 billion in sales. Now I take this to the digital world. Gmail has a 70% market share. WhatsApp has a 72% market share, WeChat is 17%, and so on and so forth. In search, Google has a 90% plus market share globally. Facebook has an 85% plus market share. YouTube has a 90% market share. Twitter has a 100% market share. There is no number 2 in the microblogging space. So the really interesting thing I'm saying is, despite everybody telling us that market shares competition will rise, actually the opposite has happened. Dominance is rising. The opportunity for absolute dominance in a niche category is gone through the roof. And that to me is an extraordinary opportunity as an investor. The second interesting corollary for all the brands we talked about, whether it's a Red Bull or whether it's a Tesla, or whether it's a Google or a Gmail or a Facebook or a WhatsApp, the really interesting thing is the global spends on advertising are zero. Right? You've never seen a Zara ad, you've never seen a Red Bull ad. They don't advertise, they don't need to. There's something really interesting happening out here. So as investors and as a brand guy, I kind of dived in and said, what causes this? And at the root of it is 2 really interesting things. Each of these brands won because they used the most important medium in the world, what you talk about, people. These brands have grown and they use the medium of people, of word of mouth, and they've done that to propagate themselves. And the closest proxy to that is digital today. We have 4.5 billion people online in the world. India alone has 360 million people on digital, which is 30% more than the reach of television in India. Far and away, the largest mass medium in India is digital. I also say that as somebody, I'm part of the team that spent zero to bring down Facebook free basics, which spent 400 crores, right? So it's jujitsu, you have the ability. And what was really interesting is we were using digital to bring down Facebook, which was using print and outdoors. Didn't quite make sense, but somebody somewhere lost the fundamentals. So coming down to the basics, every one of these brands, you never saw a Google ad, you never saw a Gmail ad, you never saw a Chumbak ad, you never saw a Red Bus ad, you never saw a Dulali ad, you never saw an ad, Save the Internet ad, which part of the group I'm part of. It's simply because what you do is you figure out an insight, and that insight you can arrive at it by a gut, you can arrive at it by research, you figure out what is it you need to get to say for that person to be able to spread that message by word of mouth. At the root of that insight is something far deeper. It's purpose. Every one of these brands has purpose. So I'm less concerned about love. I don't care about being loved or not loved. The thing is, you've got to do what you've got to do. As long as you show purpose, people will love you. It's not your job. You can't control people loving you. What you can do is live true to your purpose. As long as that purpose is a purpose that helps the people, they will love you. Facebook was India's most loved brand till 4 weeks ago, right? In the online world. So essentially, you can really topple things down really, really quickly. And you've got to have a very clear idea. Do you have insight into what makes that person move? Do you have purpose? And are you doing something remark-worthy? Every one of these brands has behaved in a remark-worthy manner. When you do something remark-worthy, when you live a remark-worthy life, you don't need to advertise. Because that remark-worthiness is actually what carries through word of mouth, through word of digital mouth. It's pretty much the same thing, right? So for us, the architecture of building a brand is really very different. It starts by saying, how can I be remark-worthy? What is my insight? What is a purpose? And how can I express that in a remark-worthy way? If you line these 3 up, you get free publicity, right? And you understand, and your brand grows like wildfire, and you can get extraordinary dominance in a very, very quick period of time without spending a lot of money. On Red Bus, which is a middle class product, your bus ticket is 500 rupees a bus ticket. We grew that business from 0 to 900 crores in top line on a profitable business on the total expense of 7 crores. Total. That includes every salary and every office, all put together. It's possible in this day and age, right? So there is the traditional way of looking at brands, which is very Kotlearian. I have to come in with a 200 crores spend, and there's a challenger brand, which is to say that I can take this down. It doesn't take very much. All I've got to do is figure out the insight, figure out the purpose, figure out the remark-worthy things I need to do, plan it out, and execute it one after another. So I think it's really interesting times. I'm a brand guy. I love this. I mean, to me, without a lot of money today, you can create extraordinary disruption in the marketplace, either through your own brands or through the brands that you work with. And that's what's extraordinary. Every single retailer I've met has sat back and said, how do I resist Amazon? What do I do to make sure that, you guys at Chumbak, for example, you're blowing it away, you don't spend. How is it that you're profitable, right? What is it you did right? But why is it that you don't have big brand advertising? And that's really the interesting challenge. There are two worldviews out here. And in this converged world where e-tail meets retail, it's really word of mouth that will again win. And we can have a talk about how retail rentals in Indian shopping malls don't really allow for the existence of really profitable businesses, and that's a different discussion. But the really interesting thing is, the internet has really split the world wide open. And even for offline, completely offline brands. I mean, there's nothing online about a Chumbak, there's nothing online about a microbrewery brand called Duladi, there's nothing particularly online about anything else. You really can actually completely take over leadership. And that's extraordinarily exciting times for me.
Yeah, so you talk about the radical sort of shift to kind of almost a winner-takes-all kind of game, and in the different possibilities, the changes you see is also across categories. A lot of times in the U.S., people would think of what's the best service brand available, and for many years it was Nordstrom, which is a fairly traditional retailer. Several years back, it actually shifted to Amazon, which of course no one had ever walked through an Amazon
That's something
store.
very interesting. We were all brought up under this belief that you could remember 7 brands in the category. We could remember 7 toothpastes and remember 7 soaps and remember 7 shampoos. Interestingly, the world's come to a place where actually, like we said, in a particular market, you're tending to the fact that the leading brand will get 85% market share. The second guy gets 8.5% market share. The third guy gets 0.85% market share. It's kind of logarithmic. So now, because we have a huge number of categories, the number of brands I remember has come down to 2 from 7. So for us as investors, you've got to be 1 or 2 or don't play. The second corollary of this is interesting. Unilever around the world is shutting down brands. Procter & Gamble is killing brands. What's really winning in the world is a unibrand approach. A brand called Google is maps, is mail, is cars, is space flights, is every damn thing, is Loon and so on and so forth. A brand called Microsoft is everything from keyboards from mouse to Windows NT server. So there's no sub-brands and so on. So even Microsoft is kind of unibrand. Microsoft plus Word plus Excel plus PowerPoint and so on and so forth. So is Yahoo and so on and so forth. So essentially we're going to a point where we're telling all our investing companies, kill brands, come down to one brand. Let that brand have a meaning which has a purpose which is not particularly necessarily suited to the product. Have a purpose and then use generics to describe your variants. It's really changed the architecture of shaping and building brands completely.
Great.
Just a humble a reminder to the panel members. We are going to close the session by 12:30, so manage the discussion keeping that in mind due to some constraints. Yeah? Thank you.
What she's saying is I should shut up.
No, we're really enjoying your conversation, sir.
Very
believe me.
nicely. Taru.
If you look at, right, retail environment is changing, not just retail, but you take any other vertical that kind of serves online is changing. If you think of, what used to be, you stock up your shelves with products or expect shoppers to kind of flock around your stores, that thing is kind of thing of the past. From a digital standpoint, if you look at, there are a couple of concepts that are arising. What Mahesh talked about, there are definitely those. Along with that, you look at the fragmented market share across. The competition is increasing. Market share is fragmented across, I would say, hundreds of brands, not just 2 or 3 that used to exist earlier. What's really coming out is, if you look at immediacy versus loyalty, right? So loyalty used to be with brands that when you had like 5 or 6 top brands and then you used to be loyal to them. Today, the concept is about immediacy. I want the product right now. The consumers believe in now, right? And right now. And the products that kind of really, or the brands that really offer them that kind of a service or a product and give them that immediate service right now, that concept is arising. So immediacy versus loyalty, that's one concept that I'm seeing is taking shape. Along with that, it's the intent versus identity. Right, so there's a moment of intent. You look at Airbnb, you look at, all these transport companies, you really need it. The intent to kind of, put in your car details and just get that product right away. That's much more than just looking at an identity of a particular company or so. These two concepts, I'm seeing big increase across the board.
Well, I think one thing that a lot of people forget to consider when you talk about how do you get people to love your brand is you forget who you have as a brand, and I run a brand, who I have to love in return, right? And it's not just the customer. It is the partners that invest in our business. It is the supply chain that exists. It's our partners that bring products through freight forwarders or whoever you may have. And, just to expound on what she was saying, with this digital e-com world being disruptive, one of the things the brand has to do is to also stay loyal to the people that support the brand. And I'm going to tell you, you cannot have a brand if a customer cannot walk in and experience it in your store. I mean, that's almost critical to have that experience, and I'm sure you guys would agree. And to do that, we as a brand have to protect, that's fine. We as a brand have to protect where that experience happens and how it happens to continue to keep that customer engaged. And so, you know, we take a very strong stance on how our internet presence is managed. And that's important. I think it's about getting people to be loyal to you, but it's also you being loyal to the people that you know will carry you through this, the longer period of time.
So I think, you know, I slightly object to that. My point is, today you don't necessarily have to be in a brick and mortar store consisting of atoms. You can have the equivalent experience delivered using electrons on an app on a phone call. So, you know, a lot less people have the time and the effort to brave 2 hours of traffic to necessarily go to a mall and come back. And I think somebody who understands the psyche of the customer better to be able to figure out what's going to work for that person to make that person like me, love me, whatever. And it doesn't have to be a store. Store strategy is just one part of it. There are many, many other ways which go beyond the store in terms of being able to create that experience without having to have you walk into a shop. Amazon is a great experience. I mean, a great example of you know, a company in the world that people buy $200 billion worth of products from every year without ever seeing an Amazon store.
No, but it may not exactly be true in Indian context. Like if we see, if you talk about Amazon, etc., I think as far as India is concerned, most of the people are buying online not because of the experience or they love the brands that there. They have no loyalty attached to either the Amazon or the Flipkarts of the world. They're buying it because of the discounts. For getting the true experience, and maybe it varies from category to category, as far as fashion category is concerned, we are convinced that though online is a very important channel, you would need to have that to make it a convenient channel for the customer to buy it from anytime, anywhere. At the same time, the in-store experience is indeed important to make the customer loyal, to make the customer love the brand. No customer is, I mean, that's what we believe, that is, as far as our category is concerned, they're not going to love the brand when they're just buying online. They don't have any one-on-one interaction. They don't have the experience.
Sorry, just to add to that, I think,
yeah, it's okay.
Just to add to that, all the predictions that we saw yesterday from all the big consulting firms still talk about the penetration of online as market access for retail products is still in the range of about 7 to 8%. So we are really not talking about a situation even in the most evolved Western countries where customers really given up on store experience and clearly gone towards an online platform. What we're saying is, there's only one thing I would like to add is the fact that I don't think it's either or situation.
Correct.
In fact, we could use some of the learnings from the online space into stores, and which is where the multi-channel, omni-channel experience is really going in. But is a customer, in fact, I'll give you a small example. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was actually traveling and I was standing outside closed stores at, in fact, stores close at about 8:30 in places like Paris. So even if you stand outside and admire some of those stores, as a consumer, that experience is like really a high, and that consumer experience has not even been provided for consumers in India. So to say that the customer is going to say, I don't want all of that experience, that happened in the past world and I'll only go to Paris to watch that once in a while as a tourist destination, and that has nothing to do with selling. I think it's kind of, in some sense, underplaying the emotional aspect of buying. Because I think to a large extent, the reason for people to love brands is also the emotional connect and not necessarily coming only for technology connect. And it's not about supply, it's not about just servicing a need and a demand and creating pace or speed. I think it's about the fact that what I actually got as a product is really, touching my heart and it's doing something for me. There is a purpose in the product that I'm really buying. So that's my view as a retailer.
So absolutely, like end of the day, we are not machines, we are human beings. So there is a term called retail therapy. You get that actual joy when you actually go and buy it in the store, and don't get that joy when you're buying online. Online, in my view, again, is more for the ease, for the comfort, when you can buy it anytime, anywhere.
So let me, first of all...
Then backtrack?
No, one second. I actually just want to ask Richa to jump in, because you just added one analog dimension to your digital business, right? And it's still
we talk about digital versus analog. If I can just,
I just want to ask her to say, what has that allowed you to do that you weren't otherwise allowed to do?
So I think, it's really unfair to say compare online and offline, because actually we should ask consumers what they want.
Sure.
And we believe that the behavior of the consumer will converge. We understand how much time consumers are today spending in the digital world. We also understand that they're short of time. But they sometimes need the experience, the entire full stack of sensory visual experience that they get in a store, right? They want that instant gratification. So I think it's very, it is very premature to say whether online will win, offline will win. There is a new word now. I mean, now it's actually old. Omnichannel and brands are actually saying, how can we remain relevant? Because a lot of media consumption is still happening online. Consumers are not coming to your store. Footfalls remain a concern for most retailers, right? So you'll have to really leverage the power of technology. You will have to leverage the online space and start talking to your consumers, build stories around it, create that entire emotional or the sensory appeal, the visual appeal that you were trying to do it in the store. Can you challenge yourself to give it in their digital world? That is what we as a brand do. So, for example, the challenge that I give to my technology team, we've just opened our first Fit store. That is our foray into our omni-channel strategy, where a consumer will walk in, and we're right next to Celio. So the consumer, it's a high street presence. The consumer walks in, beautiful looking store. She says, okay, what is this? We say, we'll help you build your lingerie wardrobe. She says, okay, can I buy? Yes, you can buy. It'll come to your house the next day. A high street presence where a woman is used to instant gratification, we're getting 70% conversion in the store where you can't buy products. You will place an order online because we want the consumers to start interacting in a certain way. We are helping her evolve her shopping experience. We're giving you the visual assistance, we're giving you a face that you want, but please buy this online because this is what we believe is the right way to buy, the most efficient way to buy. And that's what we're helping.
So let me add to that. I mean, this is not about the death of on ground and everything's going to go online. The key thing comes back to how do you create a remark-worthy experience? Because from a consumer's point of view, the consumer doesn't really care if it's online or offline. The consumer says, is it near me? Right? Is it near me in my phone? Is it near me on my route home? Is it near me on my car drive? Is it near me in the mall I want to go to? Is it near me? Right? Consumers really increasingly don't care. So the point of view really is, how do you create that remark-worthy experience? I predict that going forward, if you have an unremarkable online store, which is vanilla, which is commodity, same products, the only way to survive is discount and you will die. If you have an unremarkable offline store, just another store, clothes lined up, you will die. If you have a remarkable or remark-worthy online experience, remarkable or remark-worthy offline experience, you'll do fine. In some cases, like in the case that she was talking about, she gets people on ground and says, I'll sell it online. In that case, for example, the brewery we work with, 100% of the marketing is online for a microbrewery where you can only consume the product on ground. We can't sell you beer online in India. So I don't really care about these online, offline terms. The bigger point is how do you create an extraordinarily remark-worthy brand and what is that venue? So if you give me yet another mug store which looks exactly the same, which is not imaginative, which is not thrill-seeking or thrill-giving, I'm not going to go there no matter what you want. You know, you can place it in any high street mall, you can do anything. It just is another store. It doesn't give me a differentiated experience. Out, you're gone.
So it's not going to be the life partner store, to your theory.
Yeah, I actually disagree out there. I mean, this is not about, nobody believes in life partners anymore or commitment for life. That's like 1980s or something. Right? This is 2010. Nothing happened. I mean, we move, like I said, we'll switch between 2 or 3 brands in a category. We'll happily move in and out of categories. We'll try new categories. There's really no such thing as lifelong loyalty anymore. It's like, who gave me a meaningful, purpose-filled experience today? Who is it that I believe in? Who is it I want to support? Who is it loves the earth, loves my family, loves the planet, and is doing the right thing? I'll work with them. It's far deeper than saying, you know, it's not the 4 P's of product pricing, placing. I mean, that Kotler is kind of dead from all those points of view.
So we have a few minutes left before I think we're going to be expected to conclude about 15 minutes. I do want to provide an opportunity for folks in the audience to ask any particular questions to the panelists. I believe there are 2 microphone runners somewhere on the floor, I was told. So if anyone does have a particular question,
show of hands.
You know, you can call attention, we'll ask the mic runner, otherwise we'll follow up with a couple points.
Any show of hands for Mike? There's one.
Hi, my name is Taru. I just wanted to know, is there any idea about pricing? So because online and offline, that's the biggest challenge what we are facing today. What do you advise in terms of pricing? I mean, the same product selling online at X price and in the store at Y price. So, I mean, as a brand heads, what do you advise? How do we,
See, as far as, so can I take the answer? So I would strongly advise that do not differentiate the pricing. You have to have the same pricing online also and offline also. Earlier we've seen that some brands did some differentiated pricing and they had lot of problems in their offline stores. They had to shut down their stores. They tried to give them this story that online they're selling an all old season merchandise and offline they're selling current season merchandise. But end of the day, for customer, it's a brand. They don't necessarily differentiate whether it's an old season merchandise or a current season merchandise, and it kills the brand. So my strong advice would be that don't have differentiated pricing between online and offline.
Actually, to add to that, with one of our fashion brands that we invested in, the promoters worked hard with me, convinced me that they would, they wanted to list it on the Amazon and Flipkart platforms. And sure enough, the platforms didn't do a brand-specific discount, but a platform-wide discount, and that really killed the brand. So essentially now I only allow them to go onto platforms if there's a hard-coded thing that you cannot undercut me online compared to what I sell on ground. There's got to be one price for one experience. But the customer is just one brand. Because think about it, if your brand is cheaper online, why will the customer come to you on store? He's not going to come to you on store. You won't go to a brand in store if it's cheaper online.
In fact, they would see the product offline and buy online in that case.
Yeah, in fact, one of our increasing theories is what we call the idea that you go to a Vijay sales or you go to Chroma, you look at the TV model numbers and actually just Google using their own Wi-Fi to find a cheaper price online, right? So increasingly, I see some retail will move to the idea that you have a showroom where you don't sell, we charge rental to be able to explain the product. And because the person is going to buy online anyway. Why bother? Why try to sell them when you get paid for actually the experience, for selling experience? I believe that may be one thing that takes off sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Sorry. No problem. I think we have to be a little pragmatic here because at one end we are seeing massive surges in businesses of online players. Some of us like it, some of us don't like it. Everybody complains that it's all about the price and nothing more. I think it's a little bit more than that. That today, with maybe some amount of pricing, and I'm not necessarily saying pricing on the same product in online and offline should not be the same. In fact, I would recommend that it's the same between online and offline. But there are certain parts of the inventory that is getting liquidated in massive scale in online place today, and they are not necessarily unheard of brands. They are massive brands, they're big brands, they are in fact some of the biggest brands in the country today. So will it move from a pricing platform to a pure play, commercially best value price in the short term? I'm not quite sure it's going to happen. And are all the brands which are discounting online, are they going to die in the next couple of years' time? I'm also not sure about that. So I think it's a stage of progression which has happened in multiple countries. I'll give you an example. A bag like, a product like Tumi bags, okay, it's an expensive bag, you see it in airports, you see it in expensive stores. But you also see them in Costco selling at a particular price. And this has been something that has happened in mature markets for so many years. But it's not necessarily the same product, and consumer over time understands that. So even if I want to say that we need to control pricing and everything has to be controlled, I'm not quite sure that's the reality of life at the moment. And every brand worth its salt is today available at a discounted price online. So we would say it's a stage of progression. It's not something that is achieved at this moment in time.
Taru, I think you got enough answers for your question, but just kind of one main point, like the differentiator between online and offline, in my opinion, should not be the pricing, right? It should be the ease, the convenience part of it, right? That's why I would go and shop online. The same product that I can find in a store is more about my convenience. I want to shop from home, I want to shop from office, I don't have the time to beat 2 hours traffic by that. So the differentiator should be in terms of the ease and convenience as against pricing.
Sure.
I would like to ask Mahesh, can I?
Yeah.
Hi.
Sure.
We all emphasize on the fact that experience is required, like experience is essential of a brand, and yet when we talk about digital, we just talk about e-commerce or say social media. When are our websites going to be more experiential? I open any website and I just see selling on them. I don't get the extension of brands through website or any other digital medium. If I go, say, go to a Cartier website or a Van Cleef website, I see the universe, the brand emotions extended through that website, you know. I don't see any interactive, even for example, Chumbak. I open the website and the first page will tell me the best products I can buy. Whereas Chumbak has a very strong brand identity, a philosophy that could be translated. When is that going to take the forefront except the e-commerce?
But the same thing, you go to a Chumbak store at Kalagoda, you know, you don't have to walk through a museum. You actually start buying right away, right? So the point is, so you go to a Nike app, it will talk to you about the ethos and it will give you the entire, you know, brand of what it is all about. There are stores and the e-commerce businesses and there are brands, right? So let's not confuse retail or, you know, with necessary brands. There are retailers, there are brands, and some brands that retail themselves. Absolutely, yeah, sure. You can't do everything you can do in a brick and mortar store online, but actually the reverse is also true. What you can do online, you can't do in a store. You can completely control the experience. You can completely control the audio, video, look and feel of a product, the description of a product. But think about it. How many of your retail shop assistants on the store floors actually can explain your brand to you? Walk into Anita Dongre and ask them, what is this all about, right? Walk into any of these stores and see that if they represent your brand correctly, you'll be astounded. In fact, one of the big issues, if you talk to Sriram, who founded Crossword and all the other bookstores, he'll tell you once upon a time you could go to a Crossword bookstore and the assistant could tell you what book to buy. Today you go and say, I want an atlas, and they'll say, which section is it in, right? And that's really, there is an issue out here because we have now started paying the shop assistants less and less, so we don't really get the quality of shop assistants. So you can control your retail experience much better when you control your branding experience when you control it online. And from a consumer's point of view, it's got to be a seamless thing. I mean, I would urge you to think in a seamless manner. What are the consumer's touch points? The consumer may see my store, the consumer is going to go online, the consumer has a mobile phone, the consumer is going to watch TV or listen to the radio. I have to appear like one brand through all of this. And the things you can actually control are all your digital assets. You really can't control your analog assets as easily as you can control your digital assets.
Hi, I'm Shravani. This question goes out to Richa of Zivame. Richa, we know that Zivame is absolutely an online portal for the lingerie category. Understanding that, you know, we all are aware that away from shoes and lingerie are the two very specific categories which there is a challenge, if I may say so, you could maybe put in your views, wherein it's try and buy. But on an online portal, especially for lingerie, we would want your views on this. How do you overcome this kind of a challenge where a lady needs to go and really try it and then buy it?
So like I said, one is the aspect of building credibility, that, you know, whatever you get here, we'll try our best to suggest you that it will fit you well. And if it doesn't fit you well, we'll ensure that the entire process of exchange or returns is very smooth. So that's how we started. And we understand that women need a little more assurance. And that was the rise of our Omnichannel presence, where we opened our first fit store, where a woman can come, see a selection of the products, touch and feel, go through the entire fit experience if she wants. We'll assist her to buy on Zivame, and then it becomes very easy. Then it becomes a matter of ritual for her to buy online because, you know, credibility gets established. And you know what, if it doesn't fit me and I'm not happy with the product, of course we'll take a return back. Somebody will come to your doorstep and you can give the box back. So that's how we are trying to solve around the touch and feel issue in this category.
Actually, most consumers also, solve it the same way. They go to a store, try it on and order it online. Saying, I know the size. I know I'm a size 8 or a size 11 or a size 36 shoe or 37. And for example, there's, you know, people I know who directly buy from AliExpress in China, and they say, I'm going to get one order of size 36 and see if it fits me. If it fits me, my next order is for 10 different pairs of shoes. That comes from there. So people are willing to take a risk to be able to overcome that. That is not as much of a barrier as we used to theoretically think of it 5 years ago.
So it appears that the session is getting converted into online versus offline rather than brand being loved.
It's a connected world.
Hi, my name is Dipanshu and my question is out there for Mahesh.
This would be the last question. I'm so sorry I'm interrupting. This would be the last question.
He doesn't want me to talk.
I know you all must be cursing me by now, but...
Since you have emphasized on not spending any money on the advertisement and then creating a brand dominance, so how do you see that your products being Redbus and Chumbak being the entry price point, and then you want to create dominance for Rolls-Royce or Lamborghini, kind of that, those kind of things. So how do you connect both of these things? And are we in looking, or are Redbus and Chumbak going to be global brands with the dominance?
Okay, so Chumbak already has 20 stores in Japan. Redbus is selling in East Africa. They're very young. I mean, they're 5, 7, 8 years old. Rolls-Royce is about 150 years old. So give us another 10 years, we'll see what happens, right? In terms
Good
of
luck with that.
In terms of global dominance and stuff like that, right? The more important thing is that, again, none of these brands discount. In fact, I'm really, really against any of my brands discounting, because price is really, in the absence of any other input, price sets your brand. So, and it's much easier for me to launch a premium brand and then go down market than do the other way around. So we are always about saying, okay, what is it that we can get for this? How can this create the brand, and how can I create the right kind of premium position for any of the products? Because over a period of time, you can do that. The key point in each of these, you know Chumbak, somebody told you, never saw an ad. You know Redbus, somebody told you. And even Redbus, so we sell 150,000 tickets a day of a mobile phone or of a website or of the phone. That's not a small number. And these are completely middle class people buying tickets from Chikmagalur to Dodbellapur and Vizianagaram to Warangal. So these are not like super high-end brands. These are regularly Aam Aadmi middle-class brands. It's absolutely possible. Take the same thing in politics, right? So what did the Aam Aadmi Party do in Delhi? Spent zero to overcome Modi's 100 crores. What did Nitish do in Bihar against the BJP? So you're going to see this revolution happen in the very real, very middle-class, very Aam Aadmi India. It's not an elitist thing. It's happening today in front of you. Right? What did we do as a small bunch of guys to overturn Facebook's free basics? It happened in a period of 2 months. We spent zero. Right? You will see that, let me put it this way, the opportunity is there. You can choose to use it or choose to not use it. You can say that it's not possible, but I'm telling you it's possible.
You need to have a USP for that. What's yours?
The USP in each case is different. Whatever makes Chumbak remark-worthy, the design in Chumbak makes it remark-worthy, the entire convenience in Red Bull makes it remark-worthy, the community at Dulali makes it remark-worthy. Every one of these brands has something that is unique, that is built on a consumer insight and also shows purpose to the consumer. Right? It starts with that. Without that, you really don't have a brand. A brand is not what is on the shelf. A product is on the shelf. A brand exists in the mind. So you've got to sit back and say, brand is entirely a psychological game. How do I get into somebody's mind? And that's what it is. It is psychology. Ma'am, shut up.
Thank you to